Why do people hate it when H3 talks about politics is a question that I've asked myself a lot, whilst at the same time actually knowing the answer to myself. Essentially, I can see the reasons for and against him talking about politics on his H3 podcast or on his H3 channel. I can see both sides, but what I'm going to try to do today is explore the sides of why people don't like it when he talks about politics. Of course, with the nature of the video, I need to make a couple of disclaimers before we actually start. The first thing that I'd like to say is I am a very big fan of H3H3 Productions. He's possibly been the YouTuber, which has been my favorite YouTuber for the longest time. I know some people watched him back in the H3 days, enjoyed his videos, and then left when he moved on to this podcast. I know there's new people that came during the time of his podcast, but I've been a fan throughout. I'm talking, I've watched all of the H3 videos, and I've basically watched a good chunk, I'd say about over 80% of all of the H3 podcast videos. And so I do feel like this is coming from a place of somebody who is not a hater, of course, not in any sense. So this isn't one of those H3 hate videos that you see come up on YouTube, you know, every now and then. Actually, they come up pretty often. So this isn't one of those. This is more of trying to explore a particular section, a particular aspect of his podcast. In fact, so much so that I remember when I was about 12 or 13 and he was having that beef with Leafy is Here, me and my best mate were actually debating over who was in the right and who was in the wrong. And I remember this vividly because he's still my best mate to this day. I had Ethan's back all the way back there, and today I'm 19. So you can see that, you know, I'm a real one, I guess you could say. Another disclaimer that I need to make is I'm not coming at this from a politically biased perspective. Obviously, let's not beat around the bush here. Ethan is left-wing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm coming at this from a right-wing perspective. There's many fans all across the political spectrum that both like it when he talks about politics and dislikes it when he talks about politics. This is once again just trying to explore it a little bit more, and a lot of these views aren't necessarily going to be my views, but more the views put forward by the people that aren't too fond of him talking about politics. And lastly, the last disclaimer that I need to disclaim is please smash the shit out of that subscribe button, like button even, if you're feeling extra generous. I'm no fool. I know that lots of content creators ask for you to do this, but if you look at my subscribers, I am a much smaller channel, you know, so literally every single subscriber does make a huge difference. So please consider helping out a smaller channel such as mine, and even my Instagram as well. You know, if you give me a follow on Instagram, you know, we can talk, we can have a chat, we can have a conversation there, because once again, I am no huge channel. So consider supporting me in that sense, please. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you, God bless. Let's get into the video. The very first reason that I'd like to touch upon is politics is not pleasant. Most of the times, you know, sometimes it can be enjoyable, sometimes it can be fun. But in this sense, one of the reasons why I feel like people get a little bit upset and switched off when H3H3 Productions talks about politics is the fact that it's not something which is very lovely. Many times it can be bleak, it can be depressing, and people don't really like that sometimes. Many people come to the H3 podcast for reasons such as entertainment value, fun, jokes, goofing around, and that many times is not something that you get with politics. Granted, sometimes you can, and this is one of the things that I would bring as a counterpoint to this point, I guess you could say, is that many times Ethan looks through the goofs and the gaffes that many politicians have, and it is genuinely funny. And I don't think that people would mind that aspect so much, because it is just genuinely entertaining to see these huge politicians committing such, you know, silly things. So I think that that aspect is definitely fine, at least from my perspective. I don't know what other people say. That's just a little bit of my opinion weighing in there. So this is just the first reason that I could think of, really. Sometimes people don't want to be in that political zone. Sometimes people want to escape that, and they might get that out of... I'm sorry, I live in a main road. The second reason, and this is something which I see being brought up quite a lot, and it is the fact that Ethan is said to not be knowledgeable in politics. I've seen people say in various things that maybe Dan, the producer, is more knowledgeable in politics, more so than Ethan Klein. This is just something which, once again, I am telling you guys from what I've seen and what I've heard. And sometimes I see people saying that he says things which aren't true, and although I get where this is coming from, I do think that politics, realistically, everyone who weighs in on politics doesn't necessarily know a whole lot about politics. So I think almost in a way it's realistic, because many people watching the videos at home and everything, they don't necessarily really look into politics. Sometimes they just kind of stay on the outside zone a little bit more. But then I can see why people would have a problem with that if that's the case, because of Ethan's huge platform. The third reason that I would say is if you are someone who disagrees with Ethan politically, it might be a little bit annoying every time you tune into the podcast to have to hear the opposing view. Now, obviously, the opposite could... Again, what is going on? You finished? So yeah, of course, I'm pretty sure you guys can appreciate if you had to endure listening to politics on the opposite side for time and time again. It might be something which gets a little bit annoying. Alternatively, and I've heard this point being said too, is that it can actually be good if you disagree with Ethan's politics to actually see the different side and see what the different side thinks. I think that's quite a nice way of looking at it personally. I think that even if you disagree with someone's politics, it is nice to listen to them and see what they have to say and even find some common ground. How lovely is that? For this fourth one, I'm going to need you guys to bear with me because this one is much more of a stretch, but it is something which I have seen people talk about, and I do think that is something which is worth mentioning, okay? But bear with me on this one. If you remember some of H3 Productions videos, you know, some of the more classic old H3H3 production videos, what you'll see is there is a lot of, how do I put this? Anti-social justice warrior things on his videos, okay? So you're going to see a lot of the things there which kind of portray this very radical aspect of social justice, warriorism or whatever, being something which is negative. Obviously, there was the whole Humongous saga, there was the Gamergate saga. Where am I going with this necessarily? Let me explain to you. To many people, their first experience of politics could have been something minor, such as those things, okay? To some people, it might have been an election. To some people, maybe their politics just came extremely naturally. But to many people as well, it was something as simple as that, as those videos. I have had people tell me before, and I've seen comments before, people saying that to many of them, that was like, you know, the H3 videos was almost like a grouping of the first political experiences that they had. And they got to experience this kind of politics of the social justice. It was something which was unpleasant to them, and that kind of led them down on a particular political path. A particular political path, of course, which is completely different to what H3 puts out today. The kind of stuff that H3H3 talks about today is, I would say, very politically correct. Obviously, some of it is not. And that's not to say that you can't disagree with Ethan and also be against those lunatics that he covered in his channel. But I just think that there seems to be kind of like a pattern here from what I've seen. And it's not even necessarily just kind of like right or left. It's just about talking about particular topics in general. I've seen many times where Ethan kind of wanted to talk about a topic, and then obviously you'd see Ela kind of holding him back, saying no, don't mention it because it could be offensive. So they're kind of like tiptoeing, almost like subsiding and bowing down to that pressure from the social justice warriors, I guess you could say. So they've come a very long way from making videos on them to not even being able to talk about particular things because of them being worried about potentially getting in trouble with those very same people, essentially. Once again, I'm making the disclaimer, this isn't necessarily what I believe in, but this is just something which I've seen people talk about, and in doing research for this video, I wanted to show to you guys all of the different points that I heard, okay? Of course, I might have missed some as well, which is why I'm asking you guys to write down in the comments, what do you think? Do you think that H3 talking about politics is something that's good, something that's bad, something that's neutral? And if so, why do you think that? And if my point sounds a little bit goofy, that last one that I made, because obviously it is much more far-reached. Obviously, with the recent beef that there was with Steven Crowder and Ethan Klein, Ethan revealed that actually he got called to be on Steven Crowder's YouTube channel, particularly obviously because of that anti-social justice warrior thing that was happening. And that's not to say that Ethan is in any way associated with Steven Crowder. You know, I'm not making any allegations, nothing at all in that sense. All that I'm saying is it's evident that the content that Ethan used to produce back in H3H3 Productions did have a particular nature to it, which I guess you could say is conflicting to what it is today on the H3 podcast. So if you're a fan and you're seeing that, you might be a little bit confused and you might be like, wait, what? It's obvious that the no politics thing is something which is acknowledged in the H3 podcast for several reasons. The first one is they have a strict no politics rule, even though that does tend to be broken. Bruh. And the other one is, I do remember when Love joined the team, and I think Ethan was saying something that they disliked the most about Ethan or something, and then Love actually said when they discussed politics. So that is an important member of the H3 team saying that he himself doesn't like it when Ethan talks about politics as well. So this is no small deal, I would say. I'd say that this is something which is pretty important in my opinion. And once again, there's probably many other reasons out there why people don't like him talking about politics. But once again, I love Ethan. I love the H3 podcast team, and you know, no hate towards them. It's just, once again, something that I was curious about, because it would be, they even have like a strict no politics rule, something. So it's kind of evident that it is a big aspect. Once again, guys, please don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to follow me on Instagram as well. You're going to be doing me a massive favor doing any of those things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.